Hey fellow YouTubers, this is New Solar here. I've been trying to figure out what to do with my YouTube channel for quite a while now, and if you take a quick look at my uploads, you'll see that 99% of my more than 600,000 views come from one video I uploaded many years ago that I created simply as an exercise in getting to know some video editing software. And frankly, I'm getting sick of my channel being so heavily associated with such a shitty band. So I'm going to try something new, and hopefully I can pick up a bigger following of subscribers that are a bit more interested in my interests and hobbies. With that, I'm pleased to bring you what will hopefully be the first in a long series of game-related videos that I hope will be both fun and informative. Just a quick note, if you're finding this video via my 1UP blog, please subscribe so I can gauge whether or not people are actually interested in this kind of thing. Today I'm excited to bring you my very first video game hardware review for a little known but highly awesome bit of plastic called the Super 8. The Super 8, otherwise known as the TriStar in Europe and Asia, is an unlicensed accessory released for the Super Nintendo sometime around 1995 by a company called Innovation. The device was designed primarily to do one thing, and that is to put the NES back in SNES, or to allow you to play NES and Famicom games on a Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Incidentally, Nintendo had at one point planned on having this functionality built into the SNES, but scrapped these plans when it was deemed too costly. Now, some of you may be wondering, so what? In a lot of ways, the Super 8's functionality isn't that much different from any of the myriad NES and Fami-clones that exist on the market today. It emulates most of the 8-bit system's hardware functions via software built into a custom-designed chip, often referred to as an NOAC, or Nintendo on a Chip. But it is noteworthy in that it existed in the US roughly a decade and a half before Fami-clones could be purchased from major retail websites like Amazon. So let's take a quick look at the device before we take it for a spin. On the front you have the device's branding, which will either read Super 8 or TriStar depending on the version of the device you purchased. Hookups are pretty simple on the back. Mine's actually missing the RF output, though others will have it built in. I don't think it much matters when most TVs today only support AV anyway. Pretty simple to set up. You just plug the Super 8 into the cartridge slot of your SNES, like so. Plug this line from your Super 8 into the AV multi-out on your SNES, and then plug your video cable directly into the AV out on your Super 8. SNES cartridges go here, NES cartridges go here, and any Famicom cartridges you might have laying around go in here. From there, it's just a matter of powering on the device, choosing 8-bit from a menu, and getting lost in some of your favorite NES and Famicom classics. There's also one quick thing I'd like to point out in case there's any confusion, and that's regarding the button mapping. The NES's buttons, B and A, are actually mapped to the SNES controllers Y and B. This would be NES B, this would be NES A. So essentially you're getting the same button layout as you would using a real NES controller. I felt like I should point that out because a hardware review I read for the Super 8, which was actually written in 1995 and published in the Boston Herald, I believe, claims it's actually reversed, and that's not the case. So we've seen how simple it is to use, but how does it compare to the real thing? Well, thanks to YouTube user and one of my best friends, Zuriko, I've got a real NES here with about 100 games to test. So without further ado, let's test some games. So as you can see, the Super 8 runs just about everything I've thrown at it, sometimes even better than Zuriko's NES, which frequently exhibited a flashing pink screen when I tried to load a game, and even erased my save game on Maniac Mansion. For the vast majority of the games I tested, the Super 8 exhibited no similar issues, though I could not get it to play Strider or Dragon Warrior without significant graphical issues. Whether this has to do with the Super 8 or the specific cartridges themselves is hard to say, but I'll definitely be curious to see how it handles a different copy of Dragon Warrior once I pick up one of my own. Compatibility issues aside, there is one noticeable issue with the Super 8's video output, and that is that it exhibits vertical lines on the screen for many of these games, usually when lighter colors are being displayed. This is likely due to the cheaper hardware used inside, and the more recent top-loading NES, the one that actually generally goes for more on eBay despite not even having an AV output built in, that system exhibits similar issues. Thankfully, there is a really simple mod that you can do the Super 8 hardware to eliminate this issue, and I'll link to the relevant FAQ in the comments below. So there are a few issues with this device that mean I can't quite give it an unqualified recommendation. The first is that the cartridge connectors on here are ridiculously tight, meaning it can be sort of a challenge getting your cartridges out once you've plugged them in, as I can demonstrate right now. Definitely won't be able to do it with one hand. The second issue is due to the fact that this device is actually a cloned Famicom and not an NES clone, which means the select and start buttons don't work on the second controller, because the Famicom didn't have select and start buttons on its second controller. This is potentially a problem where multiplayer games are concerned, though I imagine you can probably get around this by buying the Famicom versions of affected games. Additionally, the Super 8 is missing some sound hardware that was built into the NES but not the Famicom, so some games that use digitized speech, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, might not sound quite right. Finally, as this device was originally built to fit on top of a Super Famicom or European SNES, you might have difficulty getting it to load properly on an original model US SNES like this one. This can be solved with rubber feet, like I've applied here. You can either buy these at a hardware store for $1 or $2, or just rip them off the bottom of your Wi-Fi router, which is what I did. In the end, I'm really happy with the Super 8. Not only does it allow you to play NES and Famicom games on an SNES using the much more comfortable SNES controller, it also does it without requiring an additional power supply, which is obviously a big plus. It's even compatible with the Famicom disk system if you've got one of those laying around. The Super 8 is definitely worth it if you've only got an SNES and you're looking to start building an NES collection like me, especially if you appreciate the reliability of the top-loading NES, but prefer the better video quality of the original model NES. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try to get back to you in the comments below. And see you next time.